So let's talk about preseason week 1, buddy. Saw some things I liked, saw some things I didn't like. For starters, let's talk about a couple of upvotes. I thought Tyler Smith looked well out there. I thought he looked powerful, and he's only going to get stronger from there.
Just as far as talking about positives we've seen, I know, like we said, Tyler Smith looked very good. You know what I mean? It's what we expect to see from a rookie right away as far as strength. Just hound the ball, rush everything from the point of attack, picking up stunt blocks from a mental standpoint. I know it's a lot of chatter about the flags, but I think in general, man, he looked good. That's what we wanted to see, man. And definitely the defensive line stood out. I would have to say, like, all of them, you know what I mean? I don't remember seeing Ridgeway out there, but I know that Bohanna, he jumped off the screen right away. I know he made, like, the first play. I just kept the eye on him. He was popping here and there. Fowler came in. Basher made some plays. So I think it's good, man. Just the first couple of things that just jumped off the page to me right off bat. Man, what you think about that? Like, what is a couple positives or people that you think are on the uptrend after that first game?
Positives coming out of preseason week 1, I'll have to agree. The defensive line looked nice, which is what we kind of previously spoke about. We got bodies there. Our depth is terrific. I hope we don't lose too many bodies there with these roster cuts. I wouldn't mind rolling out with 6 or 7 of these guys to include like Bohanna, Ridgeway, Hill. I mean, I assume, like previously mentioned, Bronson and I think Tafua might have got let go today. I'll have to double check that one. But that's kind of expected. He's 4th-string guy. So a couple other positives I got. Deron Bland, the cornerback. I know we've been talking about him.
Sure. Yeah.
Lighting it up. I mean, obviously it's against it's the preseason, but that's a name we honestly wasn't even on our radar until this past weekend. So I'm excited to see what he can do against the Chargers coming up here. Another one would be Jake Ferguson. So Jake Ferguson, our 3rd-round pick, I believe. Tight ends are weird in the NFL, so you usually don't get a tight end to splash until year 3 or 4. So I don't have high expectations for him. If he can just come in and carve out sort of a role, I assume he's probably going to be our 3rd-string guy. In the passing game situations, he should be out there. He's probably a better receiver than Sprinkle. Sprinkle's going to be more of our blocking guy. With that being said, I'm sure those two will split. Couple downvote guys, if we can hit that. Nashawn Wright and Kelvin Joseph. That was not a good look this weekend.
That's crazy. It's crazy that you talked about Deron Bland and saying it's only preseason. But if it's only preseason, we got to kind of hold those, those guys to the same standard. So, I mean, yeah. You see Nashawn Wright out there, you know what I mean? It seemed like he was aggressive early on. He had the interception and got called back. And it seemed after that, you know what I mean, it kind of just, the wheels kind of started falling off a little bit. But him and especially Kelvin Joseph, they need to step it up. You know what I mean? Deron Bland, he was definitely jumping off the page. So I definitely agree with you on those two for sure.
And definitely, like, I got high expectations for Kelvin. But to get carved up by Josh Johnson in a preseason game with starters out there, that's a horrible look. And this guy's on his 34th team professionally. He's played in all the leagues, including XFL, AFL, all them. So there's no reason why Josh Johnson's out there carving up a 2nd-round pick. That makes me nervous.
With that being said, like Kelvin Joseph, we expected him to be the number 2 guy, and he hasn't been able to unseat Anthony Brown. I mean, and not only that, like when we compare the two, we even talk about Deron Bland. It's been out there, and there's been a lot of chatter that even Nashawn Wright has been having a better camp than Kelvin Joseph at this point. So I mean, it's like it's gonna have to step up. I don't know if it's just a mental thing or everything that happened in the offseason. I know from an experience standpoint, he's only played about 15 collegiate games in general. You know what I mean? So he doesn't have the most experience. I mean, he was over there at LSU. He got switched over to Kentucky. He played a few games there, but you know what I mean. So. He has all the talent in the world, but he's been yet to put it all together. So, but I would say, man, the clock ticking, man. So if you're talking about something we want to see going into this Chargers game, I'm really hoping that, the Chargers put some weapons on the field. I would like to see a Justin Herbert, a few weapons, maybe like Guyton or Palm or a few of these guys to get out there and test them. And I want to see if Deron Bland can do it again. And I want to see if a Kelvin Joseph or, Nashawn Wright, can they step up and kind of redeem themselves so we can get a little bit clearer look at what's going on for this cornerback position.
Coming into this weekend, I would like to see Kelvin Joseph, Nashawn Wright step it up, maybe against a Palmer or Guyton, as previously mentioned, maybe even put him up against a tight end, see if they can break up a couple passes, lock down a little bit of coverage, and redeem themselves, because if not, Deron Bland might just come in there and take someone's job.
Hey, it's definitely possible, man. Like I said, you want to see your guys earn it. You know what I mean? Like we always talked about when the bright lights come on, who's going to step up. You know what I mean? And I think it's a lot to be said who shows up when it's time. As far as anybody else that jumped off the tape, I did see Story Jackson. He looked good. He just seemed to be reading the plays, seemed like to be in the right place at the right time, making tackles. He looked good. You know what I mean? So I definitely be watching that linebacker position and kind of seeing that going into the next week. But with him and Harper over there, another thing I want to hit on, man, Tyler Biadasz, kind of like up and down with him, but I did see like he seemed like he was still struggling at the point of attack as well. You expect him going into another year to get into his offseason, get a little bit stronger, but it just doesn't seem that way at this point. So, I mean, you know, that's another guy. This offensive line so far is very shaky, you know what I'm saying? But we don't have our starters out there yet. I don't think you would expect to see a Dak Prescott out there with the offensive line looking the way it is. So that leads me into pretty much talking about this Cooper Rush situation and how bad he looked and how we didn't really get a good look at our receivers. So what you think about that situation there?
Well, if I can just go back to the offensive line here, we both know that we're a Tyron Smith going down away from being in trouble, but you can't wait until August to address offensive line depth. All the offensive linemen have been scooped up this offseason. The only one available at this point, I think, worth signing would be J.C. Treader, but I have a strong feeling he'll be in Cleveland here soon because they just lost their starting center for an extended time. I'm not sure if it was the whole year. If so, then we will have to roll with what we have. As you were saying with Cooper Rush, our offensive line was not the best. Cooper Rush was not the best. We were not able to see what we were hoping to see out of these wide receivers and seeing who could step up. So hopefully if we can get a couple more of our starters out there this weekend, take Cooper Rush off the field. Let's see what Will Grier can do for us.
Yeah.
And I think Dallas is just riding on that Halloween game against Minnesota last year where he lit it up. But that's what a backup's job is. Come in there for a game or two and try to look good and just try to manage a game. If you can't light it up in the preseason against guys who are going to be playing in the CFL, AFL here soon, then that's a bad situation.
To be honest, Benanucci came in and he looked better than the Cooper Rush. Like, who would have thought we said that a year later, right? I think just looking at it from that aspect, Will Grier was able to, I don't even know if you want to say, like, book it in or, you know what I'm saying, lock it in at this point, but just by him not playing, I think we all feel comfortable with him, you know what I mean, the number 2 role over Cooper Rush at this point, right? So hopefully going into this next game, you know what I mean, the guys that we had questions about, like I know we talked about, hey, we want to see what Toba look like. We want to see Simi, you know what I mean, even Dennis Houston. It was a lot of you know what I mean, Phil. Denver was just dropping guys back. Underneath Frost was open. There was a lot of things going on. At least give you guys some chances. At least let them get in the rhythm, things like that. But we just didn't see it at all. So I would just definitely just hope that we can get a quarterback in there to at least give the wide receivers a chance to go ahead and get a feel for the game, get some, you know what I mean, go ahead and get some skins in the game and just go ahead and start making some plays because, I mean, it wasn't good at all.
And I don't mean to overreact. It is preseason week 1, but stemming from that joint practice we had with Denver, Dak looked good, CD looked good, things were looking well out there. But these penalties, dude, these penalties are going to kill us. We led the league in penalties last year. We were up there the year before. And I did see that, so we had 17 penalties this past weekend, and the league average was under 7. So we almost tripled the league average. And we can't do that. That's terrible. And you can't blame that on the referees.
It was some boneheaded mistakes.
The staff that was out there.
You had some guys jumping off sides, and it's some things you can, you know what I mean, some guys going to try to paint a narrative, you know what I mean, that, you know what I mean, some calls that wasn't. But, I mean, there was a lot of calls that I do think, you know what I mean, deserve to be called. And when you look at it from a standpoint, who's really to blame for that situation? You know what I mean? A lot of people say, hey, you hold the players accountable. A lot of people say, hey, you hold Mike McCarthy accountable. Or does it come down to the, you know what I mean, going to the very top of it all? And, you know what I mean, Jerry Jones, I've seen it all over the place. But I do think it's a little bit of both. When I look at it, I think the players should at least hold each other accountable. You know what I mean? Your leaders of the team, if that's what it is. We shouldn't be making those bonehead mistakes. It came back to hurt us in that playoff game with the 49ers, and it came back and hurt us countless times during the seasons. Like, we both remember that Raiders game, right? You know what I mean? And, like, just games that I know we had the chance to win. We went 12-5, but I still feel like we had a lot more games that we could have won due to, you know what I mean, penalties that, you know what I mean, we kind of just stabbed ourselves in the back over and over and over again. And I think this year, even though it's only the preseason game, You know what I mean? I do think it is a discipline thing with this team that you want to see, you know what I mean, young players or whoever, you know what I mean, when we stepping on that field, it shouldn't be a lot of these mistakes going on. You know what I mean? It kind of just is what it is at this point.
And the fact that, in my opinion, the fact that we ended the season, I believe, with 16 penalties against San Francisco, and then we opened the preseason with 17. At that point, in my opinion, you're either coaching it or allowing it to happen. Right. My point of view is that's on McCarthy, because what did you address this offseason if it wasn't the penalties? So, as I said in the last episode, was I think he just runs a soft operation. So, he needs to put his foot down. Just to wrap things up here, we would like to see the coach and staff tighten things up as far as the penalties are concerned. Maybe try to see a clear-cut picture of who our potential starting corners are going to be alongside Trayvon. I'm assuming it'll be an Anthony Brown or Jordan Lewis out there in nickel packages as well. But I wouldn't be surprised if this Deron Bland throws his name in the hat as a potential starter. I wouldn't be upset with that. The front seven always, as said before, did impress us a bit. You got any final words on what you're looking forward to in week 2?
I think the main thing is just I want to see what type of identity we will come out there with. I want to say we'll continue to be physical, try to enforce this run game a little bit more. I do want to see Tyler Smith out there right away. And mainly the offensive line, it was shaky, you know what I mean, like we talked about. So I think the main thing I want to see is this offensive line going into the next week, see if we can kind of rebound a little bit, clear up these penalties a little bit, and we could be a little bit more physical and see if we can enforce this run game. And, especially this quarterback position. Cooper Rush, you might be on your way out of town. Let's get a Greer in there and see if we can make some plays and see how this quarterback battle shakes out.
Absolutely. This is the Schilling N Stunna podcast. We appreciate you all for tuning in. You got any final words?
Hey, just hit that like, share, and subscribe button, man, if you haven't already. Make sure y'all hit that notification bell, man, and stay tuned in, man. And like we always say, we'll be back with another one. Stay tuned. Peace.
Thank you.